Hello, everyone. This is Matt Crowley, and I'm a student at Penn State University, Great Valley MBA program. And I'm going to speak to you today regarding a study that I reviewed for our Leadership 556 class. I chose the research study Age Diversity, Age Discrimination, Climate, and Performance Consequences Across Organizational Study, as I thought this was an interesting item to review, considering at my own company we see a bit of this issue coming up in where you have what sometimes people say the old guard and the young guns at a company that has been around for a long time and is evolving over time. So this study was done by Florian Kunz, Stefan Bohem, and Heike Bruch of the Institute for Leadership and Human Resources Management at the University of St. Gallen in St. Gallen, Switzerland. So just as an introduction to give some ideas as to why this is important and why it might be interesting to you as you watch this, the study was done back in 2008, and at that time, over 50% of the U.S. workforce was over 40 years old. Also, the workers who were 25 to 54 years old were said to increase only 2.4% annually, while workers 55 to 64 years old will increase 36.5% annually. So you can clearly see that there is a growing change in the workforce. As a result, there will continue to be a growing age diversity in the workplace, as I've stated. The question is if there is a new emergence of age discrimination and if it will negatively impact companies' performance. So this research looked at a few things. It was all focused around perceived age discrimination and considered the following: unfair biases against any age, meaning someone being told they're too young or someone being told they're too old for a position, for a role, for promotion, etc. The study is viewed at an organizational level, not a person-to-person level. So it's not about one person's relationship with their manager or their colleague, but more around the impact to an overall company. And then what role it plays in impacting companies' performance. There were three different hypotheses that the researchers came up with. And so I thought that it was good to isolate each one here and then also add a bit of commentary as to what they may mean, because it helps once we get to the results. The first was around age diversity and perceived age discrimination. So the first hypothesis was higher levels of age diversity will positively be related to respondents' perceptions of age discrimination climate within companies. In other words, the more age diversity there is in a company, the more employees will see age discrimination from the young and the old side. Older employees are often seen as in the way of younger employees, and younger employees sometimes can be told they are a bit young for that job. The second hypothesis relates to perceived age discrimination climate and the collective effective commitment. And when the study says collective effective commitment, it relates to the overall emotional commitment that employees have for their company or their organization. So hypothesis 2A states higher levels of perceived age discrimination climate will be negatively related to respondents' collective effective commitment toward the companies. 2B states the relationship between age diversity and the respondents' collective effective commitment is mediated through perceived age discrimination climate. In other words, the perception of discrimination can violate the feeling of being treated fairly and having an equal chance to succeed. When this happens, it'll impact one's emotional or personal commitment to the company, to its mission, to its colleagues, and these sort of things. In other words, it isolates people away from the company. Hypotheses 3A and B relate to collective effective commitment and the company performance. 3A states, higher levels of collective effective commitment will be positively related to organizational performance. 3B states, the relationship between perceived age discrimination and organizational performance is mediated through collective effective commitment. In other words, a decrease in the collective commitment, the emotional commitment, to the company can become a problem, and that the researchers are looking into a link between this commitment and a company's overall performance. And in this case, it's related to and measured by financial performance versus others in their business group. So I thought it was valuable to include this table, which came right out of the research, and it relates to the relationship of the different hypotheses that the authors have put together. And the reason why I thought it was interesting is that when I first read this, it kind of got confusing as to how all of these things piece together and are they going in different directions. So as you can see, they're focusing at a high level with all employees around age diversity, speaking into different employee groups, into perceived age discrimination climate, and then the collective effective commitment, and then at the end, as you'll see with board members, they speak to them regarding the actual financial performance. So as this is kind of elaborate, I thought it would be helpful to outline in a couple slides the sample they took and how they came up with the information. So data was collected between March and June in 2008 amongst German companies. 164 organizations were contacted with an 81% response rate. And these were across various different industries, as you can see here. And the companies ranged between 10 to over 3,000 employees. The data was collected using 3 different methods: a general company information through manager surveys, study-specific variables through different employee surveys, and then company financial performance data through executive board surveys. So they tried to gather a broad range of companies, a broad range of sizes of companies, and also within those companies, surveys across the full gamut. So as you can see here, overall, they surveyed over 18,000 employees. The individual responders were split between male and female at the percentages outlined here. And also the ages were split, as you can see, 16 to 30, 31 to 51, and over 50. Lastly, in order to capture those last surveys, they had to make sure they were understanding the organizational status, as they called it, or the hierarchy, as we may refer to it, between percentages of the employees that are in top management, middle management, line managers, and non-manager employees. Lastly, so what was measured? So they measured, using a 7-point scale, age diversity, perceived age discrimination climate in their company, the effective, or as I say, emotional commitment to their company, their performance, and then they also controlled in a number of variables that are outlined here. I won't speak to each of them, but I just wanted to highlight them because I think it's important, because sometimes as I was reading this, I was thinking, okay, well, perhaps the results are skewed by a small company or an older company, a more traditional, a more startup company. So they try to control a variety of things to overcome that. Okay, so with all that being said, what were the results? The researchers found support for all of their hypotheses. First, age diversity is positively related to a perceived age discrimination climate in companies. Second, perceived age discrimination is negatively related to the effective or emotional commitment to one's company. And the effective commitment is positively correlated with performance. So in the end, what should companies do with this data? And the following bullet points were sort of a combination of some things that the authors recommended and some thoughts that I had as well. First is to monitor age variation in the workplace to prepare for potential age discrimination climate. So in order to be able to understand what's happening within your company and where it fits within these areas, you have to monitor it. You have to capture it, the data, at some baseline point, but then see the trends. Second, if age diversity is present, use the monitoring tools such as interviews and surveys to capture and track those trends. So once you determine it's there, there's other different methods that one can use to be able to track those and see how it's trending. Develop training regarding age discrimination issues, the challenges, and the legal requirements and impacts. So, like any of the diversity issues that we've talked about in this class, training can be a very key item, and making people aware of things that could impact them is very important. And I think this is a key piece regarding age discrimination, so the employees can understand what it means and be aware of it. Internally, among the employees, is to ensure executives and managers are modeling the right behaviors amongst their direct reports and each other. And sort of tied to that is HR should define and communicate clear objectives and standards regarding age diversity in their workplace. So it's important that human resources, clearly defines what's important and how something should be monitored and what the positions are, that it's unacceptable, what the standards are, how we will perform, how we will hire, etc. But also, the company needs to ensure that the executives and managers are modeling those behaviors. So HR doesn't say one thing, and in actuality, the people that are hiring or managing people are doing something different. So in the end, continuous monitoring is necessary to assure alignment. So you follow a series of different steps, and then you monitor on a regular basis to see how successful you are. So based on that, I came up with 3 sets of questions here I thought it would be interesting for the class to consider. The first is, has your organization struggled with age diversity and/or age discrimination issues? If not, why not? So here I'm not as interested in understanding, if you did, what were they? But if you didn't, why do you think you didn't? Is it something that's relating to the company culture? Is it something relating to the fact that there's just more of one group versus another group, or where that may be? Second, have you or your colleagues felt the impact of age discrimination during your career? For example, being told that you're too young for a position or too old for a position, and how did you manage it? If you haven't felt this personally, perhaps you can share a comment from, some of your coworkers who have talked to you about something, or you've heard about something, just to add some flavor to the discussion. And the last point is, do you have any ideas to share about how you have been successful working across different generations within your workplace, and if not there, maybe within a volunteer environment? So, as the data shows, the workplace is quite diverse between age. And sometimes we get hung up into our groups and the way that we do things, the way that we manage technology or communications. And it would be interesting to understand some of the ideas that people have gone through to view this. Here is the reference document that I used to prepare this. And I want